Using a 19mm socket, let's go ahead and remove our lug nuts. Remove the wheel and set it aside. Now on our caliper and bracket, we're going to use a 14mm socket. We're going to remove our slide pin bolts here. And then separate these two. We're going to pay attention to our caliper bracket. We have our rubber boots here. We're going to pop those off. And we're going to add a little bit of grease to the inside here. We don't want to pack it in there, but what we want to do is add a little bit to what is there from the factory. Next, we're going to reinstall our rubber boots. Line those up and press those into place. You can see our slide pins are pretty bare, so we're going to add a thin coat of grease to these here. You don't want to load it on there because that'll cause restrictions and air pockets inside. I'm just going to do a test fit and everything seems to work pretty good. And do the same for this one here. On our caliper replacement, what we're going to do is on the back side of our original caliper, we have our flex hose here, and it comes onto the back side. What you're seeing is a hose going to this point right here. So we're going to remove the new bolt, and on that bolt is 2 copper washers. When we reinstall that hose onto this here, there is going to be a copper washer on either side of the hose area. So when you install this, put it through the hose, install the copper washer, and then into the caliper. Use an 11mm socket and ratchet. We're going to go ahead and remove the bolt. You want to have a catch can or some rags underneath to catch brake fluid, as it will leak out. You want to make sure that there is no copper washer on either side. Put the bolt with the washer through here. Put the other copper washer on the bolt like so. Take your new caliper, go ahead and get that threaded into place. Once we get that caught a few threads, we'll go ahead and snug that down. Be sure to wipe down any residual brake fluid off of the new caliper. We're going to use our hanging tool to go ahead and hang the new caliper up and out of the way. We're going to remove our 2 bolts holding our brake caliper. These are also known as your slide pins. Once we remove this slide pin here and we pull that caliper off, brake fluid or residual brake fluid will probably leak out of that. So take precautions, be careful where that fluid goes, and go ahead and drop it into your catch can or your bucket. remove your outboard brake pad and your inboard brake pad. Set those aside. On the back side of the brake caliper bracket, you're gonna have two 13mm bolts. I'm gonna go ahead, loosen and remove those. On a new caliper bracket, we're going to go ahead and install our brake pad shims right now. So we're just going to put a little bit of grease here and a little bit on the other side. And take your shims here. Got to line those up. Press those into place. I'm going to make sure that they're fully seated as far down as they're going to go. Repeat for the other side. Then we can go ahead and install this on the vehicle. Take your caliper bolts, feed them through the back side. And we'll go ahead and get our bolts threaded in. Once you get them caught a couple threads, we'll go ahead and get those snugged down. Now let's go ahead and torque down those two caliper bracket bolts to 88 foot-pounds. Now let's go ahead and install our brake pads. Repeat for the inboard. Let's go ahead and take your brake caliper, remove the hanger tool and put that aside. Let's go ahead and line up our caliper. Take our slide pins and feed those in. Let's go ahead and get those started a few threads. Repeat for the bottom. And let's go ahead and snug those down. Let's go ahead and torque the caliper slide pins down to 32 foot-pounds. On your caliper, we're going to go to our bleeder screw. We're going to pop off this little rubber boot. Once we pop that off, let's go ahead and loosen our bleeder screw. We're going to give it a couple moments. We're going to allow for that fluid to come through the line, fill up the piston caliper area here. When that fluid starts coming out, we're going to go ahead and snug that back down. We have some fluid coming out, so let's go ahead and snug that down. We're going to clean up, get rid of any residual brake fluid here. Go ahead and install your rubber boot. At this point here, you want to go ahead and hop into the vehicle, pump up the brakes a few times. That's going to allow for this caliper to compress closed. Then you want to go ahead and open up the hood. Go to your brake fluid reservoir and check the fluid and add it as necessary. Go ahead and install your wheel. get our lug nuts started by hand, and then we'll go ahead and snug those down. Let's go ahead and torque our lug nuts down to 100 foot-pounds.